Hey everybody, Hari's having a little bit of a grump because she's read 3 Golden Hairs and wants to read A Queen's Revenge. But if you go back through the YouTube channel, you'll see that we've already read that one, Hari. So you join me if you're ready. Anyway, this one, you can... I did say that I was going to read you a scary story, and at face value it doesn't seem to be that scary, but if you really think about it, afterwards, perhaps you'll find something scary inside. Welcome, Hari. You grabbing a seat? 3 Golden Hairs. Once there was a poor man whose only son was born under a lucky star. It was foretold that one day he would marry the king's daughter. The king was very cross when he heard the news. "A poor boy like that marry my daughter? Never!" He went to go see the boy's father. "I want to buy your son," he said. The king was told that the boy was not for sale, but he nagged and he argued and he pleaded till at last the boy's father thought, "My son can come to no harm with the king. He'll give him a better life than I can. I must let him go and sell him." The king carried the baby off, but instead of taking him home to the palace, what did he do with him? Yeah, he put him in a box. And then he put him into a river, cast the box adrift. With any luck, it would float out to sea and the baby would never be seen again. Marry his daughter indeed. But the boy hadn't been born under a lucky star for nothing. The box was fished from the river by a miller, and he took the baby home to his wife, and they brought him up as their own son. He grew into a fine, strong lad, full of mischief, but kind too. And one day, the king happened, just by chance, to call at the mill. "Ah, what a handsome boy," said the king. "Is he your son?" "Oh, that he was," sighed the miller fondly. "Ah, we found him as a baby, floating down the river in a box." The king went pale. He called for a pen and paper and quickly wrote a letter, which he sealed with bright red wax. "Can you spare the boy carry this letter to the queen?" he asked the miller. "It's very urgent." "Oh, my boy Jack will be honored to carry your letter," said the miller, unknowing that the king had written, "Kill the bearer of this letter. Will explain when I get home." So what happens if he takes that letter to the queen? Jack set off towards the palace immediately. Towards nightfall, he knocked at the cottage door and asked for shelter for the night. This is the home of a band of robbers," said an old woman who answered. "Are you sure you want to stay?" "I'm carrying a letter to the queen. They will not harm me," said Jack. He was asleep when the robbers returned, so he didn't see them open the letter. "Look at this," they said. "Isn't that just disgraceful? Kill a nice lad like that. We'll soon settle this." They wrote a new letter which said, "Marry the bearer of this letter to our daughter," and fixed the king's seal so that it looked as though it had never been broken. These are pretty crafty robbers, aren't they, Hari? And then they burnt the letter that said, "Kill the bearer of this note." Jack continued his journey next day without knowing that the letter had been changed. He was very pleased to marry the princess when the queen arranged it. I wonder what the king thinks of this. When the king returned and found he had a new son-in-law, he was very angry. "If you want to stay married to my daughter, you must bring me what?"
3 golden hairs.
From who?
A giant.
3 golden hairs from a giant. He thundered, thinking secretly that the giant would soon put an end to Jack. But Jack set off at once, being brave. The guard at the gate of the first city he passed through asked him if he knew, "Why is the fountain in the market? Why is it run dry?" "You know what? I will give you an answer when I return," said Jack. The guard at the gate of another city asked Jack, Why is the tree that bears golden apples, why does it no longer bear a leaf?" You know what? I'll have an answer for you when I return, said Jack. And then the ferryman who took him across the city, no, the ferryman who took him across the river said to him, how can I escape from this ferry boat and gain my freedom once again? Jack said, you know what? I'll give you an answer on my return. And when Jack reached the giant's cave, the giant was not at home. What do you want from him? Asked the giant's grandmother. Oh, nothing much, said Jack boldly. Just 3 golden hairs from his head. The giant's grandmother frowned. That could be very risky. I'd better help you, but first you must hide. So, what did she turn Jack into?
What?
Into an ant and hid him in her apron. While they were waiting for the giant to come home, Jack asked the grandmother if she knew why the city fountain had run dry. I do not know, but I'll ask the giant if he knows. Will you also ask him why the tree which used to bear golden apples bears them no longer, and what the ferryman must do to gain his freedom? Suddenly, I can smell boy, said the giant when he got home. Where is he? But Jack was well hidden. The giant wanted his supper, so he soon gave up looking. Whew, lucky for Jack. After he'd eaten, the giant lay his head in his grandmother's lap and went to sleep. It wasn't long before he was snoring. The grandmother, boing, one of the golden hairs from the giant's head. Ah, what was that? Cried the giant, waking up with a start. Oh, nothing, dear, said the giant's grandmother. I was dreaming of a fountain which had run dry. Why would a fountain run dry, dear? Why, Harry? Because there is a toad sitting under it, said the giant, who knew the answer to almost everything. What a know-it-all. Kill the toad and the water will flow again. As soon as the giant closed his eyes, the giant's grandmother, boing, tweaked out another one of his hairs. Ah! What was that? Cried the giant. Oh, nothing, dear. I had another dream. Why should an apple tree that used to bear golden apples bear them no longer? Why, Harry?
Why?
There is a mouse gnawing at the root. Kill the mouse, and the tree will bear fruit again, said the giant sleepily and angrily. Suddenly, he was asleep again. The giant's grandmother, boing, pulled out the third hair. Oh, I suppose you've had another dream, said the giant. Yes, I have. How did you guess? Now, tell me, what must the ferryman do to gain his freedom? How? You know, give the rudder, the thing that steers the boat, to another passenger, of course, sighed the giant. Now, let me get some sleep. Of course, dear, I won't disturb you again, I promise. The next day, when the giant's grandmother had turned Jack from an ant into himself, he set off for home. Jack waited until he was safely across the lake before he told the ferryman how he could gain his freedom. And when he answered the question that the city guards had asked about the fountain and about the golden tree, he was richly rewarded with gold and silver. The king had to smile and pretend not to be pleased. Well, he had to pretend to be pleased when he saw Jack. For not only had Jack bought the 3 hairs, boing, 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 he was also very rich, and the princess was very pleased to see him. Bit of a shallow princess, Harry. It so happened that the king himself was the next person to cross the lake, and the ferryman handed him the rudder. And the king is perhaps ferrying passengers to this day. Well, I'd love to know what you thought of 3 Golden Hairs. Is there a scary element to it, or is this just your run-of-the-mill fairy tale? What's your favorite one to read from this epic 80s book, Harry? Little camera shot.
I don't really know your name.
What about A Queen's Revenge? Do you know that one? Anyway, see you guys soon in the Google Classroom. Thanks for coming.